Alrighty. Good evening, afternoon, or morning, guys. Everybody who is here, welcome to our InfinitySwap channel. I'm Victor, ICP Squad with Infinity Swappers. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Ray La Cuenta from Catalyze. So Catalyze is an exciting new project. It's similar, but not the same as Discord. So Ray, can you introduce yourself to the community for those that don't know you? Tell us a small snippet about your project, and then we'll continue through this AMA.
Oh, cool. Sure. So thank you for having me. Again, my name is Ray La Cuenta. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Catalyze Software. Catalyze is a blockchain software company, mostly specializing in building solutions for the internet computer. But we also, do have multi-chain aspirations as well. But our focus has been historically on the IC. And our product, which is also named after the company, Catalyze, is a Web3 community building platform that has a lot of similarities with Discord. But over time, we're going to try to change that narrative a bit, so it's not just a Discord alternative for Web3. And we're a team of about 10, 11 people, mostly in Europe, but really all over the world.
All right, awesome, fantastic. So for everybody who's just tuning in, guys, remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, we are giving a $400 CKBTC giveaway. This is going to be very important because it's a special part of Catalyze, as why Catalyze is using the CKBTC token. So make sure to hit that like, subscribe, comment all of your questions. I know you have fantastic questions. And also follow Catalyze. Is going to be on down there on our comments. And one more thing, Ray did mention to me that you needed a Catalyze account if you want to win the prize. So if you haven't made a Catalyze account yet, you need to head over. Don't exit the video. Keep watching the video, but head over, or when the video ends, and go and make a Catalyze account. And guys, the UI is really spectacular. I liked it. It's not very often that I like one of these. Well, I don't want to call it beta, but one of these like starting Web3 apps.
It is beta. It is beta, so
Okay.
beta is okay.
Okay, good. And it's not very often that I like them, so I like this one, and I want to say that. So let's go ahead and start with some of the questions. So we're doing the BTC giveaway. Can you explain to us why the CKBTC token? Why is it significant for Catalyze users?
Well, I mean, it's significant for both Catalyze users, and I think the whole internet computer ecosystem. The ability to transact with Bitcoin in an affordable and much faster way opens up a lot of great possibilities, whether it's DeFi, NFT ordinals, and then just as a currency to use for staking or for purchases in the ecosystem. It also helps put the technology of the IC on the map outside of the chain. I think we all know how cool the technology is for the IC, but when you touch something like Bitcoin and then eventually Ethereum, you open up that technology and its capability to a much larger universe of interested parties. And I think that's why it's so important in general. For us, a lot of those, benefits are, kind of mirrored inside of Catalyze. You can transact with Bitcoin inside of it. You can do it at a very low fee instantaneously. We just airdropped CKBTC to 800 people in minutes in our airdrop app that we have not launched commercially yet, but will be coming soon to people who participated in our giveaway. So there were some prize winners that we manually did wallet-to-wallet transfers for the higher prizes, but then we had a consolation prize that we had to drop to 800 people. And we did it very quickly, very seamlessly. And we couldn't have done it as cheaply or as fast if we had used traditional Bitcoin running on another chain. So for us, it opens up some really exciting opportunities for things like giveaways, airdrops, and then to the extent that Catalyze gets involved in any kind of staking or DeFi in platform or with a partner like InfinitySwap, being able to handle that type of token just makes our interest and usability go up, and the number of potential customers goes beyond just the current IC ecosystem. So those are some of the reasons why we're excited about it. We're actively using it, and we look forward to when the Ethereum equivalent comes up, and we will do something then as well. So it's just more showcasing what the IC can do faster and cheaper than in most other networks.
That's fantastic. I find it impressive how Bitcoin, when it first came out, it was super. I mean, still super popular, but it was super popular because you have decentralized money, nobody can freeze it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's always been kind of slow, right? So it's kind of one of those trade-offs where I don't think these trade-offs should exist, right? I think we have technology to where it doesn't have to exist anymore. But basically, you have decentralization, but you have to trade off that it's slow. So with CKBTC, I'm super excited. Not only CKBTC by itself, but CKBTC being integrated into apps like Catalyze, because you can do that. You can airdrop like many people just Bitcoin like super fast, super cheap, as cheap as ICP. And that's super impressive. I mean, I see that. I never thought. I mean, I did imagine it, but I never thought there's also other apps. And somebody tipped me like 0.00001 CKBTC and stuff like that's really cool. You know, you post a comment, you post something, and other people like it, and they can tip you very small amounts that today might not be significant, but in the future they'll be very significant if the price of Bitcoin goes up, right? Not financial advice, but it could, right? It could possibly.
Oh yeah, and it's exactly, and it's not expensive to do. So, you know, if you are going to give somebody a tip of 50 cents of wrapped Bitcoin, or 10 cents or $1, you're not paying a large fee and then waiting, you know, 5, 10 minutes, 12 minutes for the transaction to go through. Did you actually get it? And if you're running promotions and you are airdropping it to thousands of people, having the expense and the delay, and then a bunch of people saying, "Where's my Bitcoin? I didn't get it. You know, I don't know where it is." And so those things do come up. And I think also the DeFi part of it, where you can start seeing yield farming and you know, different types of staking around Bitcoin, because that are popular, that will bring people into the ecosystem. I think that's the other part of it, is that when they can see, okay, this is a cool technology and you can use Bitcoin on the IC and it's cheaper and faster, the stuff that's going to come built on top of that, I think, is what's going to really make people excited. And we have some ideas, but I'm sure, you know, the DeFi sector folks have a lot of ideas spinning through their heads of what they can do with this. And I would say in 6 months, you're going to see a lot of use cases that either you didn't think of, or are beautiful exchanges and platforms that are going to be triggered by this capability.
Yeah, it's going to be super awesome future of Web3.
Oh yeah.
Next question we have: at what stage of the roadmap are you? So how long until you have the finished article in terms of having implemented everything you initially envisioned?
Well, I mean, short answer is never. I mean, our list is so big that I don't know when we'd ever really be done with it. But in terms of where we are right now, you mentioned the UI, and so that is, you know, going to get, we have a whole new UI. So Catalyze has been running with an MVP UI for over a year now. So we didn't really intend for it to go that long, but it just worked out that way. So we've been spending the last 3-4 months redesigning the entire application. It'll have familiar vibes to it and what's where, but the skinning is different, the fonts are different, all the icons are different. There's a bunch of new features. We've taken 5 months of user feedback to heart and made UX changes and chat and channels. So that'll come out right at, you know, shortly after we do our SNS raise. So in terms of features, we set out to build something that would have, you know, individual DMs, group DMs, channels, an event management tool. And on the event side, that's going to become a bigger part of what Catalyze is about, and its utility is running events, instantaneous events, online events, mixed in real life and online events, ticketing, gating, attendance badging. So the events engine, which we have in there right now, and people kind of play with it a little bit, but they're mostly just chatting, is going to become a big utility, a larger utility for people as they see it unfold. And then even publishing public calendars of events that you've got coming up, so you don't even have to log in to Catalyze to see them, are all coming. And we have a lot of that stuff built out now. We do have support for wrap Bitcoin and the different NFT standards, and also the SNS token standard, because we are going to be doing our own SNS raise in Q2. And so we've built out a whole infrastructure for that. We're a company that for good or bad, we do a lot of back-end development to prepare for stuff. And so I know people want UIs to change, where's the new features, and we hear you, but we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We've completely rewritten the entire back end from scratch. It took like 4 or 5 months to do. We implemented it, in late February, early March. No one really noticed other than the app went down for a day. It scales better. It's more affordable. It is faster. Once the UI and the front end changes, you will see the real true speed improvements that are coming. And so what on the roadmap, a lot of what's coming are the things that you can actually see and touch. The new UI, ability to airdrop NFTs, ability to airdrop tokens. We're going to have an online minting engine. So if you just want to do attendance badging or some kind of giveaway where it doesn't require you to work with one of the major NFT exchanges to work something out, you can just upload a PNG or a JPEG and bang out, 50, 100, or 1,000 badges as NFTs, and then airdrop them to either the Catalyze wallet or whatever wallet people are using to log into the application. And so that's, those are things that are coming now on our roadmap with a new skin coming and those features. After that, the next big thing is going to be really the tokenomics part of it and the platform governance. So because we have a community chat, platform as part of what Catalyze is, when we do SNS and we have our portal for proposals and discussions, we're also going to have all the stuff that happens before you write a proposal. So in traditional politics, you have committees and groups that work on these things and review them and discuss them and evolve them before a law is put forward to, whatever type of government body you have, whether it's a parliament or Congress. And those meetings matter, those hallway conversations, working that stuff out before an official proposal is built will have a big impact on the probability of that proposal being accepted and then actively adopted. And so we think one of the things we can do around SNS is to, take the committee meeting hallway chat conversations that exist before you put a proposal together and have that happen on site on Catalyze. And so that'll come, once we, get through SNS, and really our focus will be on that. And then other things that we'll be doing, post SNS, moving chat on chain. So we're going to architect, a chat solution that will be on chain, and then we'll be adding other, little bibs and bobs to the application. One of the things that we're really excited about that we've talked about before, I think on a swoop spaces that we did, is we want to build a Catalyze marketplace. That's not in our roadmap. This is something we've defined internally, and this will be is if you are a software developer and you build, a polling app, or you build some type of a meeting add-on or a survey tool, or an interface to a DeFi system, we want to be a little bit like Slack in that regard, where you can actually post your app on a Catalyze marketplace, and then people can either use it for free or they pay for it if it's for a fee, and you can have these embedded services into our platform. We don't want to try to build every feature you can imagine for Catalyze ourselves. We know there are a lot of developers out there who are just getting started. Maybe they're working, full time, and they're doing IC work on the side. And it would be a place for them to launch their application with an existing community as an add-on, a bolt-on. And if people want to use the full-blown version of that application, they certainly can. But we want to be a marketplace for them to get exposure, to get started, to get user feedback. And we think it's just good for everybody, because then it'll make Catalyze more useful. And I think we saw with Slack that model really helped, accelerate their growth. It wasn't just what Slack gave you out of the box. It was all the add-on apps and little applets that you could put into it that really made it sticky for that company. So we're going to take a chapter out of that book and launch a marketplace probably back half of this year, more, probably more into the fourth quarter, in addition to the things we've already mentioned. So to wrap up all of that talking, in terms of what we originally set out to do, I feel like we're 70% of the way there, maybe 80. And that last 20, 30 is going to come in a hurry in terms of some of the things I've just talked about. And then post SNS, the tokenomics engine, engage to earn, the marketplace, and a more expansive event engine will be things that we'll be proposing to our new governance body to get that on the timeline. And that's also something that's important for the watchers, the viewers to know, that once we SNS and we go to a DAO format, the roadmap becomes more communal, right? So we put proposals forward, the community will put proposals forward, and the ones that get approved will move, and the ones that won't, at least not until they get approved in some other construct or shape. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff, and I somewhat understood what you're talking about. I'm surprised you guys don't like the UI and are changing it, or the UX. I thought that was pretty good. So it looked really nice.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. One, you can obviously edit out everything I just said to something a little bit shorter, but yeah, as far as the UI itself, it's going to be prettier. It's going to use some design techniques that make it more visually appealing. And I think that's when I talk about redoing it, I think it's more, if you had to create a pie chart of what's coming, so I don't oversell this thing, there's beautification, and then there's utility enhancement, right? Or usability. And so the work that we've been doing is probably 60% beautification, just a better, faster, prettier application, something you like looking at, like you like spending hours on and navigating. And then the utility aspect of it, usability, is it makes more sense to do it this way, whether it's how you do a chat, how you create channels, how you navigate between groups and other groups. We've taken a lot of feedback on how to make that better. And so the 40% that's going to be more UX experience based will be things that are direct feedback from users. So you're not going to see Catalyze look like a completely different app where it's like you don't recognize it. So I didn't want to kind of paint that picture, but it's going to be better looking. It's going to be faster, and areas where it wasn't clear how to use it or how to get around, we hope we've fixed those things and made it easier for people to use it, and putting the right features forward. Like if you're a chat person, if you want to talk to people and you navigate channels, then that's what you should start off with, not a dashboard that tells you a bunch of stuff that you're not focused on. If you're more, I've got my finger in a lot of pies, and I like that dashboard because it can give me like the pulse of what's going on, then that's where you should be rooted or directed when you start off. And so those kind of changes I think are really important. But I don't want to, if you like it, that's great. And it's not like going to be something horrific. It's going to be a better version of what you have now. And where we didn't do a good job of usability, I hope we fixed it.
Okay, good. That's some good stuff here. That's a lot of roadmap, and I kind of see where it's going. That's some good stuff, like app markets inside of the app and all of that. I think those are great features, and that are going to be implemented. So one more question: tell us about the token sale. It's going to be on the SNS, correct? Well, can you tell us something about the tokenomics? Who gets it? Who doesn't get it? As much as info as you can for those watching.
Yeah, I mean, we're just about to publish our white paper as a series of blog posts, so we don't hit you with, a fire hose of information. So we're going to chunk out the white paper, probably starting as soon as next week. We have to do some editing to it, but I think we're very close. The token raise is going to be very similar to what OpenChat did. There'll be some variation to the amount that we're raising and the number of tokens that are going to be issued. But we want to stick with a model that is familiar for people. As far as who gets the token and all of that, there will be airdrops. We are unique in our situation in that we do have, VCs that have invested in us over the last 14 months. And so, when people see the cap table and more specifically the token distribution table of where the tokens are going to go, to the community, to buyers, to the team for development, to the original seed investors, we'll have a slightly different like makeup of what that table will look like versus probably the others that will come before us. And we know OpenChat's already done theirs, and there might be one or two that drop before we go. Overall, the project is going to have, I think, 500 million tokens, and we're going to sell I think it's maybe 20% of those or something like that. Don't quote me on that number. We'd have to go back and take a look, but we're finalizing that now. The tokens will be be issued through SNS. We'll do a proposal to NNS to get approval to do the raise, and if we get approval, then we will set a date and do it. The things that have to happen before that, we have to publish our paper so you can see well in advance of us, doing the raise, and even before we put the proposal into NNS, what we're doing, so you know what you're getting into, and hopefully you can ask questions, maybe give us some feedback that might have us change a few things before we launch. We want this to be very communal from the beginning, but we also have to keep it relatively structured so we can make our dates and SNS on time. As far as, maybe this is a question that you didn't ask, but it's implied, the tokenomics of the platform, we're using something that we call internally, though I don't think we coined it, it's a term you've heard in a lot of places, is engage to earn. So when you typically do a token raise, you give the tokens to people, based on their investors before, and there's advisors and team and all that. People buy them, and then they just sit on them. They can use them on the platform. And so typically you say, okay, well, how do you use a catalyzed token? Where can I spend it? So that's part of it. We will have areas where you can, buy things and spend it for various things I can't talk about yet until we publish the paper, so I'm sorry. And then we are going to have ways for you to earn the token. So not just that you buy the token and there's a way to spend it, which is part of the process, but how do I earn tokens by participating in the communities I'm a member of? And we're very interested in that part of the economy, that part of the tokenomics. I mean, the reason you do, a raise, an idea like this, is to raise funds to realize your vision, take it to the next level, to bring the community in so that they can participate in the success of the platform. They can have a say in how the platform evolves, take the collective wisdom of the community and begin to apply it to make it a better application for everybody. And those are all great things and part of it. But we also wanted to say, okay, if you are supporting your community, if you're running AMAs, you're doing interviews like this, you're recruiting people to the community, you're educating people, you're onboarding people, those are activities where you should earn tokens, catalyzed tokens for doing them. And whether it's you as an individual user or you as a community, you'll earn those tokens, and we will airdrop tokens into community multi-sig wallets based on those communities using the platform, growing their community, and the vibrancy of their community. They'll be rewarded for having active, growing groups. And so I think all of that is part of what will make our SNS unique. And I know you mentioned earlier, and we haven't gotten into it, so I'll only touch on it lightly now, but part of the tokenomics, what the token enables, which is the interesting stuff, is the ability to reward people not only for their contribution, but using tokenomics to help people establish some sort of an online reputation. So we talk about reputation signaling in our white paper, and you'll see some of that covered as well in the white paper for the SNS, where we want to have a facility where your evolving NFT is kind of your reputational badge. It's what you do, it's what you stand for, it's what you contributed. Have you been a moderator for 2 weeks or 2 years? What level of engagement you have, on the platform or in the communities you work with. And so tokenomics will help us feed that data set so you can actually build a reputation. And then ideally, through the marketplace and partnerships with other projects in the IC, your reputation will not be fenced to just what you do inside of Catalyze. This is a whole other conversation that I won't get into today, but there's probably an opportunity for a lot of the social apps in this ecosystem to talk about like identity management and reputation signaling across social platforms where everybody benefits, and being able to have that information aggregate based on what you do on different platforms. I mean, that's one of the cool things about blockchain that's maybe more straightforward to do. I wouldn't say easy to do, because this stuff is never easy to do, but it's potentially more straightforward to do, where you can have an ecosystem reputation, not just a reputation on one application in that ecosystem. And so some of the stuff that will come post NS is to work with these other platform vendors and figuring out, do we need a social standard? Is there a reputation standard we can all get behind? So you log in with your, internet ID to any of these platforms, and you are feeding an identity that it gets fed by multiple sources of data, not just one site. Back to you. You sound muted. I don't hear you.
Oh, there you go. My microphone's muted.
Okay.
That's very interesting. So would that be tracked by using the internet identity? So the internet identity would be the anchor for all of those reputation scores in different DApps?
Yep. So taking that as your building block, and then architecting a social standard that feeds off of that to give us all that kind of ability to feed a reputational profile. So in another ecosystem in Polkadot, there's a project called Subsocial, and they've built a blockchain just for building social apps. And it's something we've looked at, and we think it's very cool, where whatever app you build on that other chain, the identity is transparent. So it's not like you've got a Facebook login, you've got a Pinterest login, and you've got a Discord login. You do different things with those different logins, but there's no crossing of the streams. Those data sets never really connect, short of a Facebook or a Google or a Discord getting all your personal information if you're logging into every app on the internet with that ID. This is kind of inverting that model and saying, how can we take that construct and make it better for the user? Not for a single company to say, log into everything on the planet Earth with your Google ID or Facebook ID, and we're going to get all this data and we're going to sell it and make billions. And all you get out of it is you can log into this website in one click versus typing an email address and a password. And we know everybody, and I'm sure everyone's listening, watching, has done this. And we don't get any benefit. We get no benefit out of it. So the idea that we can maybe build something on the IC around the internet ID that becomes a learning, evolving identity, not just identifying you as a person with the ability to transact, but a reputation that we can all share, it could be pretty amazing. And if we can figure a way to do that on the IC communally across all these vendors, it would be something we could crow about as a chain, not as any one company. But hey, like, you come here and you get an ID, you're not just, you can't just waltz in and out of apps easily. That's great, but that's table stakes. You're building a profile that, here are the achievements on IC games I've played. These are NFTs that I own. I participated in these AMAs. You have, I hate to use this word credit score because it has a lot of negative connotations, but it's a genius invention by financial institutions where it's like, hey, every time you do anything with money, your credit score gets impacted, and we can track that. This situation is we track it not for our benefit, but for yours. So if you play a game and you do really well, and then you join a catalyzed community, you want to start talking about first-person shooters, it's like, well, why should I listen to you? Well, I've got a reputation that precedes me. Literally, I play like 40,000 hours of this game and 8,000 hours of that game. So there's a lot of cool use cases that a persistent reputation could have in this ecosystem if we do it right.
Wow, that opens up a whole other can of worms. So as you were saying with the credit score, it has maybe negative connotations. It also, this is very exciting, but at the same time, to me, it's also something that could be very scary. So the credit score or internet identity being linked to everything, I think that's one of the things a lot of crypto people, especially maybe those more on the libertarian side of the aisle, would be afraid of, right? It sounds a lot like the what is it called, the social credit score or something in Chinese. So I can see the benefits where you've played 40,000 hours of a Fortnite or
I mean,
something.
it's a crazy
So
amount. I don't even know how long you have to be alive to play that, but let's say 4,000 hours of you play 4,000 hours of Valorant, or 2,000 hours of like, World of Warcraft as a raid leader, that kind of stuff, if it's into gaming. Or it could be that you're a major influencer in NFT trading and you've done something there. I think it always has to be opt-in, right? So unlike a credit score, which you can't opt in, right? In the US, so if you're not a US citizen hearing this, it might not make any sense. But in the US, the credit score is like tied to your social security number that you get when you're born. And every time you do something that shares that number with a financial institution of any kind, they record it. So there's no opting in, right? You can't get a car loan or a boat loan or a credit card unless you give them your social security number. So it's a forced use. I think to your point, how you make this less scary is if you want to do it, you opt in. If you don't, you don't. So this is why it needs to be, I think, a series of vendors trying to figure out how to do this. Maybe it's a bunch of SNS proposals that we all make to say, here's how we are going to do this. Or maybe it's an NNS proposal. Like, how would we realize an opt-in, reputation building system that would span the entire IC, and it would have different use cases, whether it's social, whether it's financial, because then it makes the IC stand out. Because to a non-IC user, the internet ID just looks like a wallet to them. I get a number, I have a seed phrase if I lose it, and I can use it to log into stuff. So it's very, very similar to the untrained eye to a wallet. So how is this different? Well, if we can take examples like this and show, well, here's how it could be different, that you can do this in a way that's not just financially transaction oriented, but identity oriented, which Internet ID, that's the name. So you think about your identity is not just a number. It's not your anchor number. It's who you are. It's what you do. It's what you like. It's what you care about. And if you choose to share that with the sites that you visit and patronize in this ecosystem, then it becomes accretive and automatically updated based on that activity. But again, this is post SNS. This is like we have to create like a social steering committee and get all the vendors in this space to talk about this. And I've talked about it to a few of them about it casually. It's nothing imminent, but it's something that I think if we can figure a way out to make it work and protect people, which is the most important thing at the end of the day, and empower them in a way that benefits them to do this, that it could be an interesting way to say, look, how could you do this in another chain specifically? And I think you can do this on another chain, so I don't want to say that you can't, but it would be an interesting thing to do in this ecosystem for sure.
No, that's amazing. I think as long as you can build as many internet identities as you want, I think it's not a big issue, right? So you can opt in or opt out, or just make a new internet identity. But I do see how some things of that sort would be scary, but also see how they could be extremely beneficial to having a score. So you say something about an NFT, and someone's like, "Well, who are you?" And like, "Well, I've traded over 10,000 ICPs in NFT or something like that." You can have a
Well, yeah,
core, a score.
exactly. I mean, I think you're exact, and this is something you're going to see on a lot of blockchains, and it's something that I think is going to be part of a natural evolution. And that data is important, and it's important to the user, and it's important to the platform vendors to understand what you need, what you like, what you don't like, and for the user to have that protected so they don't share it if they don't want to. But yeah, I do think that there's some opportunities here beyond just identity management and reputation management on Catalyze, which we want to do. And if we can find a way to work with other vendors to have it be more cross platform, when I say platform, I mean like cross application, that would be very cool. And so we're very open.
Yeah. Wow.
So anybody out there listening who works for a vendor, just hit me up and we should talk about like how can we do this, and what kind of steering committee do we need to build to figure out the pros and cons of this idea. As they say, if the dog hunts, it'll happen.
Imagine if I want to apply for a loan in Bitcoin in the year 2030, and nobody knows who I am, right? It's not an ID. I know I've heard some people talking about raising internet ID to be verified as a form of like level 5 identification or something. I never had heard that term before. That I forgot who it was. It might have been the Catalyze interview. But imagine I'm trying to get a Bitcoin loan, right? And it's no longer just the United States. So no longer just the United States credit card system, or no longer Mexican system, Brazil, France, whatever, but it's like international, right? And your ID can be kind of a series of actions that you've taken with your internet identity, and you can apply for like a mortgage or something, backed by a DAO from people who deposited money in Africa, in France, in Japan. They all put it together. You have your ID that says you're a good person or whatever, and then you can get that loan or something. I could see crazy things like that happening in the future. But that's good. Thank you for answering that question. And the next question is, why is decentralization important for social media? So a lot of people seem pretty happy using Twitter or other Web2 platforms, some of them using Discord. So what is the major catalyst or adoption for Web3 platforms like Catalyze to rephrase that, what is the major incentive for someone who's already using Slack, Discord, Twitter to move to Catalyze? Like why should I, if I'm not I am an ICP enthusiast, but if I'm not an ICP enthusiast or something like that, why should I move to Catalyze?
Well, we get the question all the time, and I think the right answer is, probably longer than we have time for, so I'll try to keep it brief. I think that the reason you use Catalyze is that it's designed, for net Web3 native users, and this idea of decentralized ownership, personal data ownership, and ultimately, as we move towards becoming a DAO, having a direct involvement and say in how the platform evolves, and the unique environment that I hate to say use Web3 too much. It's a term we probably have to let go and just say it's an app that does something. But for those people who are crypto natives or crypto curious, it allows them to have the similar features that they get in Web 2 without the trappings of Web 2, right? They own their own data. It's secure. They own their own identity. We're working to reduce bot proliferation. We don't have a lot of bots on our platform. That's been by design, which will meter your growth. So if you try to fight bots from day one in your code and in how you promote your platform, you're not going to have tens of thousands of users overnight, because it's very difficult to do that without attracting a lot of bots. But bots are the reality of Web 2 and Web 3. And so I think you have more real people that have similar interests to you, similar ethos. And so while the tooling is not going to be, in 1 year at 100% parity to a Discord or a Slack, the direction and the say you have in the direction of that platform is very, very different. The value proposition is very, very different. This platform is built for the community first and foremost, and it will get better with the community's input, and obviously, fundraising helps as well over time. And so feature parity will come. But I think that the main message that I would have to people are saying, why should I use it? Because it provides you a way to take control back of your data and your relationships, and understand that patience is required, because 10, 15 person companies that are 1 or 2 years old are not going to be able to give you feature parity to Slack that's X years old, 6, 7, 8 years old. Discord similar, where they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in R&D and engineering and UI design, and billions of dollars in revenue in some cases. So you have to look at where we're going versus, do I want the apple or do I want the orange? I think that it may seem like a very politically correct answer to our app is the future, and those apps are the past. But I do really think that is the big crux of it. It strives to be Web3 native. It gives you control. It gives you ownership. It's not being mined. Your data is not being sold. And the people you're talking to, we're doing the best of our ability to make sure you're talking to real people and not to a bot. And that's whether you're a community member just establishing relationships, or you're a community manager and you're trying to figure out what kind of community do I have. And I think this last piece maybe hits the mark, and it's a different angle to your question in terms of an answer. The last wave of Web3, the last bull run that we went through, community became the new marketing. Community was the way you raised money. And so what happened was people ran promotions and quizzes and giveaways constantly, and their Twitter's 10, 30, 40, 50, 80, 100,000 people, their Discord, same thing. Most of them were bots. Most of them don't care if your platform survives or fails at all. They are just there for the payoff. Am I getting an NFT? Am I going to get an airdrop? And so I don't think we had a lot, and I'm not saying this so much in the IC, because I don't think we have a lot of 150,000 Twitter follower communities. We don't have a lot of 80,000 Discord member servers in this ecosystem. So I think we did a pretty good job as an ecosystem of not getting completely overrun by bots, but it's the nature of it. And I think what needs to happen going forward in this next bull run is that we need to understand that what we just did in this last bull run was not community development. It was audience acquisition. We got eyeballs on our Twitter, we got eyeballs on our platform because they thought they were going to get something. And so an audience is like somebody who wants a gift. They want to be entertained. They want to give very, they don't have to pay a little bit, and they get this huge payback, So you go to a concert, you pay $50, you get 2 hours of entertainment, you feel, wow, it was great. That's an audience. And what happens when the person stops performing and the lights go on? Everybody leaves, right? And I think crypto in its entirety just saw that happen over the last 6 to 8 months. The lights went up and the music stopped and your audience walked out the door. And the people milling around in the parking lot, those are your faithful. They're still hanging around talking about the concert, when there's going to be another one. We should go to the one in Portland next quarter, whatever it is. And so I think this next wave, and now this is a long answer to a question, is we have to find a way in Catalyze to build meaningful relationships between real people and incentivize them with a token reward and engage to earn, where you actually earn tokens for that investment in your time and establishing those relationships. So why use Catalyze? And it's going to sound almost crass, but you're going to be economically incented and rewarded for your time and effort. And the answer to that is, why shouldn't you be? Right? Most of these communities are run by volunteers. They're patronized by people that could be doing something else with their life and not sitting on a Discord at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about a drop or giving you feedback on an app. And so we want Catalyze to be the place where not only you feel that you are talking to a real person, you own your own data, but the platform is rewarding you for doing that, which is why you issue a token really in the first place, which is to give it back to the people who make your platform sustainable and valuable. So hopefully I answered your question.
Good,
We've thought
good.
about this
So
a lot, but that's how we feel. We want to earn your business by making this platform yours. And it sounds, cliched, but that's really the truth. It's not about, getting 45 million daily active users and you're just a face in a pile of faces that we've acquired. The metrics have to change, and it's a relationship, connection, resilience of the community through good times and bad. And we hope to Catalyze is a place where you can see those things maintained and participate in them.
good. So talk to real people, own all your data, and you also get paid, right? In short term.
Yeah, very, very simple. That's the quick and dirty.
Okay, good. Thank you. Excellent answer. Let's go ahead and take some questions from the audience. So guys, remember there's $400 in CKBTC giveaway. So give your best questions. Think about it. Don't put like, what is Catalyze, right? Or something. So go comment them. I'm going to start reading them now. I'm reading them on my phone. So go ahead and ask your questions. I've been reading. If you see me look this way, I've been kind of reading some of them, see if they were good questions. But let's see some of these questions. Let's see, which one do I like? All right, let's go ahead and pick. Let's go ahead and do 4 winners. And I also need you guys to, what do you need there? Catalyze username or?
Yeah, so if you can just take your Catalyze wallet principal ID and then share that when they win, then we will drop that into their wallet, and you can transfer it into any wallet you want afterwards. But just for the sake of the contest, we would like to drop it into your Catalyze wallet. Just go into your Catalyze wallet and you'll see your principal up at the top, and just click on the copy icon, and then you can paste it into wherever you're picking the winners.
Good. If you don't have that, go make it. I'll screenshot your username, and then I'll ask you to like comment your wallet or something. If it doesn't let you comment the wallet, message me on Twitter, and I'll ask you to comment like a word or something so I know it's you. So let's see. Let's read this one. This one is from Robusco Media, first winner. I've tried to. This one's probably a technical question. I've tried several times to connect with iPhone, but it didn't go through. How can we access Catalyze on an iOS device?
Usually that is an older iOS device using Safari. So we are looking at this because this comes up a fair bit. Catalyze was optimized for desktop browsers, not mobile browsers. And if you're using an older version of iOS and you're on an iPhone 6 or older, you will tend to have issues with it. The best solution I can give you for that is we are going to build out native iOS and Android clients where you will not have to use the browser anymore. That's part of the new UI work that we talked about at the very beginning of the episode. So that is coming, but we are aware that certain iPhones, especially ones that are older models running older versions of iOS, are having issues. We don't see it as often with Android, but it definitely is a iPhone 6 vintage or older iPhone running an older version of iOS. But the best short-term answer on that is to DM our Catalyze Twitter account and let us know what you're using, and then we'll run an emulation to see if we can recreate the problem. So we just had another client. I don't know if this is the same person, but literally we've been working with one of our users for a couple of days now to find out why he's having trouble. He can log in, but he wasn't able to post and chat. And it turns out he's just running a very old version of iOS and an older phone. And there's not a whole bunch we can do in those kind of situations to remediate it. But if you can upgrade your OS or, use a Chrome browser, you might have better luck. So that,
Good.
the shortest answer is just contact us and we'll fix it if we can fix it.
Okay, good. Also, one thing, if you do have an newer version of iOS, my girlfriend had some problems. I don't have an iPhone, but my girlfriend had some problems with another app, not Catalyze, and I think it was Entrepot. And I messaged EC Steve, and he told me you have to go to Safari settings, enable cookie tracking, or something like that. And as soon as you enable cookie tracking or something like that along those words, all of a sudden everything just works. I don't know. I wish I knew. I'm in my mind.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'd be a little bit nervous about turning cookie tracking on
Yeah, I
for
don't like that
one
either.
app, right? So it's probably not the greatest fix. Like I said, what we're doing when people come to us with specific head scratchers is we just tell us the phone you're using, the browser you're using, and the iOS, or Android version you're running, and then we'll go to our development emulator and see if we can pick that exact same setup and see if we have the same problem. If we don't, then we move on to like level 2 problem solving, which is like, what is your internet connection? Not great. Where are you based in the world? Because I think the biggest challenge for some of these more heavy front end client apps is older OS, older phone on an inconsistent internet connection. It's a tougher experience. There's no question.
Good. Let's go to the next question. Congratulations, next winner, Vivian8. Is Catalyze going to be a multi-chain D app? Are there any plans of getting an app? I think she means like an Android app or an iOS app. So what are your plans for the SNSL? That one's already been answered. So just the first one. Is it going to be a multi-chain app, and is it going to be available like in an app store type of deal?
Yeah. Well, multi-chain, like I said, we do want to be a multi-chain company. There's a lot of different ways we can do that. In the short term, you've got a couple of options. One is to support the liquidity or token currency of other chains, right? So people can log in to Catalyze with a MetaMask wallet, and they can use Ethereum or Bitcoin or some other token to transact, services or business on the platform. So that's what I would call kind of level 1 multi-chain, where you're just really supporting a wallet outside of your ecosystem, a login technique, and maybe some amount of liquidity support. A level 2 multi-chain project would be where we're building, specific code for that chain on the back end and or the front end to build, I would call like a replica of Catalyze on another ecosystem. And we do have ambitions to do that. We would love to connect multiple chains together with what we're starting with the IC. I think that's something that crypto in general needs. Right? I mean, it would be cool if there was one blockchain that was the only one that survived, and it could be the IC. But none of us have a crystal ball to know exactly where we are going to be in 3 or 4 years, never mind in 10. So the world of crypto, especially because it's competing in what is a single chain world of Web 2. I mean, think about that. Web 2 is single chain. There isn't anything else. It's just the internet. And so crypto has created these different, neighborhoods, these ecosystems around blockchains. And I think all of the blockchain leaders know that if they can interoperate with other chains at the application layer, at the data layer, at the networking layer, that it's just going to be better for everybody. And so we will try to, draft on that kind of concept and look for opportunities to to build on other chains and then integrate it to wherever we are at the moment. So if we build on another chain and we launch, a solution that might not look exactly like Catalyze, but is slightly different, we want to try to connect that ecosystem to what we have on Catalyze. So the answer is yes, multi-chain. Obviously we've put our biggest investment in the IC, but we've learned a lot in the process. And to the extent that we can share these ideas and concepts and even constructs of the application in other blockchain ecosystems, we certainly want to do that, because we think it's healthy for blockchain in general to connect things together. And so again, we said we're very much a back-end kind of company. We do a lot of back-end stuff that people don't see, and sometimes they get impatient with us. But we are doing things that will allow us to realize a multi-chain kind of environment probably sooner than people anticipate.
Good, excellent answer. This question is similar to that one. This one is by user. Oh, I lost him. Hold on. I took a screenshot of it though, because I was reading it. This is by user.
Sure.
Where did it go? Here it is. Okay, it's by user Martin Pulsek. He says, another thing I'd like to hear about MultiChain is, are you planning integration with other dApps? So I mean like Dmail, InfinitySwap, metaverses, or other blockchains, dApps. So I know you mentioned working for the internet. This is me, not part of the question. I know you already mentioned working with like internet identity to have like a mechanism of tracking, but other than just like the tracking mechanism with internet identity, like what other dApps in ICP or other apps are you working with to have like work together?
Yes. So we've already done some with you guys, at InfinitySwap. So we've integrated the InfinitySwap wallet into our platform. You can log into it, on the front page of Catalyze. It's one of the login options. As you guys evolve your DeFi capability and your ability to hold multiple tokens and swap between tokens, that capability will be, available inside of Catalyze through that wallet connection. We've worked with the Entrepot guys on integrating with their marketplace. So when we go live with that feature, you'll be able to do more traditional drops and sales of your NFTs through Entrepot. So Bob Bobley and Steve and I talked about this last June. In fact, we did a Spaces. Oh my God, it's 10 months ago we announced this, and then the whole market's kind of tanked. So we put it on the back burner. But the ability to design an NFT collection collaboratively on Catalyze and then publish it and sell it on Entrepot. So that's something you'll see in the back half of the year, which will activate that flow. And so you'll be able to, as an artist community, go through different designs. You can poll and test the designs with your maybe a small set of your user base. And then when you feel like this is the collection we want to go with, you've got good data on it, you can just push it up to Entrepot, mint it, and sell it. And that's a cool thing that we're going to do there. And then other things, we've talked to the DMail guys a little bit, and I know they're also, I think, maybe looking at other chains, and so I don't know where they're headed. But clearly, any app vendor that wants to work with us, we're very happy to do that. The marketplace is something that might initially be anchored by the bigger vendors, in whether it's an IC or another ecosystem. And then some of the smaller startups, I call it, the garage band coders are just getting started, and they built a really cool point solution. They need a market to showcase it. They will fill in the gaps between some of the anchor stores. But yeah, I mean, we're, as much as I talk, and I know I talk a lot, we'd rather partner with people than have to build all this. I'm not sitting $100 million burning a hole in my pocket to build every single thing. So some of these ideas will be things that we architect. Some of them we will architect and build ourselves, and some of them will be partnerships where we try to build both a good relationship and a technical integration with them. But yeah, I mean, in terms of raise all ships is a survival mechanism for blockchain companies. The more you can help not only your own project, but others thrive, I think you just do better. So the answer is yes to it. Whether we can do a dApp that runs on another blockchain and catalyze doing a partnership and sharing data, and yeah, if we can do it, sure. I mean, I think that's what you want to do. And in chains like Cosmos and Polkadot, you see a lot more of that because that's their whole model. right? They build blockchains that do one thing, and they integrate with other blockchains in that ecosystem that also do their own unique one thing. And I think you can abstract that model and say, well, how can you one whole chain work with another chain very cleanly? So I'll give you one example, then I'll shut up. The Cardano team have been talking about using other blockchains as side chains for Cardano with higher transactions per second, lower gas fees. I think you might see some of those things. I'm just now putting on my speculator's hat. This isn't official. I don't know anything. I'm just saying, if they were looking for a side chain that was super fast and you could store assets on chain and offload Cardano transactions and reduce their cost of transaction, IC would be a cool one to do it with. Right? I've heard them talking about maybe Solana, but if I was them, I would give Dominic a call and say, is there any way we could use IC as a side chain for Cardano to improve our throughput and reduce our gas fees and store data and not put it in IPFS? That might be an interesting conversation to have. Who knows?
Good, excellent. That sounds like some good speculation. Next question. So congratulations to the next winner, Louisa John. This is a two-part questions. The first one, I might not have understood it, but maybe you can expand on it. It says, will Catalyze accept IP addresses on devices in different regions? So I don't know, is there currently like a block with IP addresses, or is it just to make sure if different regions can accept the IP address?
I mean, we're not blocking IP addresses as far as I'm aware. Specifically, if you're accessing Catalyze from a phone, and Apple has blocked that region, so it's not a region like, I mean, normally it doesn't happen unless it's an app in the App Store. Like when you launch an app into the App Store, and if you're not a developer, you've never done this before, when you push an app into an iOS App Store or the Android App Store, and Apple, I think, is more stringent on this, you have to kind of pick what countries can actually access your app, period. And then Android, I think it's a little bit easier, but I do think there are some controls in there for various reasons. So I don't think we're actively trying to block IP addresses. We do have bot protection in our login, so maybe it's doing something it shouldn't be doing. I don't even know if we actually are running it at the moment because we're kind of experimenting with it. So I don't think we're blocking. So theoretically, we're not doing IP blocking. Would we ever do it? I think we'd focus more on the identity of the person on the platform and what they're doing, how they're behaving, and managing that if there was toxic behavior, versus like if you're an IP address from a certain part of the world, and I don't want to pick any country and pick on them and say, if you're in this part of the world, we're going to block you just as a matter of course. I think blocking, if it's done at the carrier level, if it's done at the App Store level, that's something that we can't necessarily control, but we're not, as far as I'm aware, actively trying to block IP addresses.
Okay, good. And then the second part of that questions, which I think is really interesting, having to do with all that, all the stuff you said about kind of like a credit score and an internet identity giving you reputation. Are there plans for KYC?
Well, I mean, obviously with SNS, we're using the code right out of the box, so that's not going to have that. One of the things we've talked about with Mod Clubs, this is a partnership that we've been kicking around, is adding KYC functionality to communities inside of Catalyze, right? So if you're going to reward your top 50 users with a very valuable NFT drop, or you're going to give them $5,000 of wrapped Bitcoin, right? You want to be sure who you're giving it to. If you are going to start staking and investing staked neurons as investments in projects that are on Catalyze as a community, but we say we offer DeFi and fundraising in platform. I'm not saying we are, but we could. You'd also want a KYC there. So using Mod Club's tech to provide that kind of filtration when it's necessary, maybe an add-on service that you don't use unless you have a need for it. I know that KYC is, a challenging situation for a lot of people, depending on where they are in the world and their situation. They feel excluded if it's too rigorous or it exists at all. So I think for us, on the SNS front, we're going to follow the rules of that platform and use it the way it's been authored out of the box. But inside the platform, if there are high value assets being delivered, not just by us, but any of our communities, and they want to have a KYC tool to proctor that drop, whatever it is, we would definitely offer it. But as far as using Catalyze or us airdropping it to people, we haven't built anything out yet. And when we do, I think we would do it through our partnership with Mod Club.
Okay, good. That's a good answer for a good question. Okay, so do you have any finishing thoughts? Any last things you'd like to say? Again, congratulations to all the people. Real quick, let me repeat your names. So if you're still watching this on the video, make sure to send that Catalyze. What is it called? Catalyze account ID.
Principal. So yeah, your
Principal.
catalyzed principal ID, it's your wallet address, but it's basically called a catalyzed principal ID. So when you go into the catalyzed wallet, so when you're logged in, you'll see a little wallet icon in the left menu. You click on it, and it will always log you into the catalyzed wallet. Then you have the ability to toggle into other wallets if you want to. Once you're in the catalyzed wallet, you'll see, actually when you go to that first screen, it'll bring up another pop-up where you select the catalyzed wallet. So I skipped the step, hit the wallet, pop-up box comes up, select Catalyze Wallet, and then you'll see your principal ID on the top. There's a little copy icon, so two pieces of paper on top of each other. Click on that. It'll save it to your clipboard, and then paste it wherever you're sending them to share that information, whether it's in the YouTube channel or if it's in the InfinitySwap channel, wherever you want it. I mean, it's up to you. And then just get it to me, and then we'll hand it out.
Okay, good. So get it to him. You can probably message him or message me too. If try to paste it, if you can paste your wallet that on the YouTube comments, that would make it easier. If not, paste maybe your Twitter name, and then Ray or I can message you. So Luisa John, congratulations. Martin Pulsek, and Vivian 8, and Robusco Media. So all four of you send us that message, and congratulations. So finishing thoughts, Ray.
Well, on the last part, what you just said, if you could give me their names as well, so I have them, because I may get like 80 DMs of people that created accounts that sign just like those accounts. So not to be a nervous Nelly, but I want to make sure the right people get their awards. So if you get me that list of those handles, and then the principals together, that'll be probably a safer way of doing it. As far as I've talked a lot, so I don't know if I want to fire hose you anymore. I think the key thing here is, the app is going to get progressively better, faster. It's going to become more beautiful and more user friendly. We want to go on this journey with you, which is why we're doing SNS. We want to build a tokenomics system that recognizes the value of community and real connections with real people. And so that's what we're building. And like I said earlier, the events portion of the application is really going to be showcased in the coming months, over the next 3 to 6 months, where the events engine is really going to evolve a lot. So in addition to owning your own data and earning tokens to participate in communities, why to use this versus something else? We hope we're going to be building, an online virtual events tool that, is not just, a big deal inside of the IC, but in general, is the way we're doing things. We're so distributed now. It's hard to have conferences and rent expensive conference centers and or just as founders running around the world going to all these events. And it would be really cool, if people would run those events on our platform, multi-day events with track descriptions and session descriptions and NFT ticketing and attendance to those sessions, all done in the virtual, even as an adjunct or complement to an in-real world conference, right? So imagine if there's a conference you do where, hey, I can't go to it, but the ticket for $10 versus 1,000, I can attend the sessions virtually and participate in it. And then I get an NFT recognizing that, or I go to the in-real world event for half the conference and I do the rest of it online. So we're going to become known for not just, chat and community services, but also event management, which we think will also differentiate us from some of our competitors and make it very clear where we're going. So those are my final comments.
I want to comment real quick on that. About 2 years ago, I was in a political thing, and due to like the restrictions or whatever, they had the meeting online. And a lot of the tech guys and nerdy guys, I'm not like super tech guy, but I'm kind of nerdy. And I was like, this is so unsafe. Oh my gosh, this is so easy to cheat. Like I could cheat this, and I'm not even a programmer. And they started doing these voting things, voting mechanisms, and it was just like a website where, if you're using like an IP, what is it called, a VPN, you could just vote again. If you just open different browsers, you could vote multiple times. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's such a disaster. And on some of the things they were voting, and there were like 60 people, and then they would get like 90 votes on a proposal. I was, oh my gosh, it was
Yeah.
such a disaster. And people even before the event, people like myself and another friend who I think works in IT management kept on saying like, no, this is bad, this is bad. And it was such a disaster. So I definitely, for kind of like political conventions, I kind of do see something like Catalyze, where it's blockchain and it's a verified ID, and only these people with an NFT ticket, and then you can have voting mechanisms where only through blockchain. I think for that type of stuff, wow, this it fits the shoe, right? The shoe fits the person or
Well,
whatever.
it's a great use case, and that's exactly what we were thinking, is that there's so many things that happen in events, happen in meetings where people make decisions, especially public discussions where you don't know who is actually saying what, who's voting. And if you're not paying attention, yeah, people can stuff the ballot box to get what they want. And blockchain is uniquely positioned to mediate some of those risks and reduce them or eliminate them. And so I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can do. And, I think that is not just a catalyzed thing, but it's something that, blockchain vendors have to really look for. You talked about this, and we'll close with this, I guess. When you try to compare, Web 2 to a Web 3 thing, you can do two things. You can try to get feature parity and stop, which costs a lot of money and takes time, or you can start solving business problems like the one we're talking about now that aren't easily solved with Web 2. And so that becomes your value proposition. I do X pretty well, but I solve these business problems exceptionally well because of the technology that I'm using. And we just need to find a good balance between parity of capability with the standards that are out today, and then solving business problems that those applications can't easily solve. That's always a trick. But thank you
Okay,
for
well,
having me. Thank you for the great questions. On my end, your video has frozen with you
oh,
smiling and throwing your head back. So
oh
it's an
wow, I'm
interesting look.
sorry.
That's also, I apologize. But
Can
yeah,
you guys
yeah,
see me
again,
still?
yeah, I can't. You're not moving, so I don't know if everybody's
Oh,
seeing you frozen the way I am. But I do appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate the questions. We're ask us more on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter if you aren't. We do check our DMs. We get a lot of them. So if you don't get a response immediately, please be patient. We'll get to you as quickly as we can. And as we start getting closer to SNS, we'll start doing, probably weekly AMAs or spaces of our own to answer any questions, get feedback on our white paper, so that when it comes down to voting for it, we hope that people approve it on the NNS. And then, from there, we hope people, actively participate in it. And we want to give you every opportunity to look at our white paper and give us feedback along the way, so that when we do raise, it's something you feel good about and you're happy to participate in. So I thank you for at least the consideration of doing that when the time comes.
all right. Thank you so much for coming. All of your input and everything you laid out, excellent. I'm sure the community gained a lot from it. Thank you so much. Hope to have you as
Thank
a
you.
guest again, and
Sure.
catch you guys next time.
Okay.